In a bombshell report, superstar wide receiver Davante Adams has requested a trade from the Las Vegas Raiders. Today we'll talk about whether the Steelers will end up grabbing him, what it will cost to get him, and what it could mean for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they land him at the top of today's show. Then Mike Tomlin had his weekly press conference today, discussed the QB situation, discussed the latest injury updates. We'll be covering those at the end of today's show, so make sure you guys stick around. Welcome into the show. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and you guys can follow me on X if you haven't already, at Jack_Sperry for daily and free Steelers updates on X. Also, I live tweet many Steelers live events, such as Mike Tomlin press conferences when they go live. So if you guys want to know what Tomlin is saying at the podium every week, if you guys want to know my thoughts when breaking news happens, I put it out on my Twitter, so you can find me at Jack_Sperry. Then we also have an official Steelers Talk IG page now. So if you're on Instagram and you want more content from us here at Steelers Talk, short form content outside of this YouTube channel, you guys can find us at Steelers CS. I greatly appreciate your guys' support. So let's get into this bombshell report here that star wide receiver Davante Adams has informed the Las Vegas Raiders that he would like to be traded. First today, Vincent Bonsignori came in with this report here saying more on this to come. A league source with knowledge of the situation confirmed that the Raiders are growing open to the idea of trading Davante Adams. The source said the club has begun reaching out to teams to gauge interest in the veteran wide receiver. And then in a bombshell report, Ian Rappaport drops this, says Raiders star wide receiver Davante Adams informed the team that he prefers to be traded per me and Mike Garafolo. There's nothing imminent, but a situation to watch for sure. So how did this situation get here, right? Because just a couple weeks ago, Davante said he's not requesting a trade. Well, Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce took to IG yesterday and liked a post that suggested that Davante Adams has played his final snap in a Las Vegas Raiders uniform. This was the post that Antonio Pierce liked yesterday from Sports Illustrated, which says, don't be surprised if Davante Adams has already played his final snap with the Raiders. Then Davante himself goes on the Up and Adams podcast with Kay Adams today, and he says that Antonio Pierce and the Raiders didn't communicate with him about this situation. Says, I haven't heard from Pierce. I don't really know exactly what that's all about. There's been no communication with anybody from the team, and now he has officially requested a trade, and the Raiders are currently on the phones looking for the best possible compensation for the superstar wide receiver. Now, the big question on every Steelers fan's mind right now is, will the con artist, Omar Khan, after missing out on Brandon Ayuk by literally this much, he was right on the doorstep of not only grabbing an all-pro receiver in Brandon Ayuk, but fleecing the 49ers out of him. Now he has an opportunity to make amends, all right, and grabbing a guy in Davante Adams, who in my opinion is even better than Brandon Ayuk at this point in their respective careers. Now the rumored asking price here, okay, and this is from Adam Schefter, a second-round pick plus other draft compensation, most likely another mid-round pick. So this comes from Schefter directly here. This was his tweet. ESPN sources, Raiders have informed other teams that they would, quote-unquote, consider trading wide receiver Davante Adams for a package that would include a second-round pick and additional compensation. So it seems like the Steelers can get Davante Adams, and they don't even have to give up a first-round pick to get somebody that I still consider to be a top 5 receiver, and for sure a top 5 route runner in the National Football League today, and would completely change the landscape of this Steelers offense, not only for this year, but for the next 3 years, because he's under contract for the next 3 seasons, including this year. Now, the only kicker here is that there's going to be multiple teams interested. I can bet you the Jets are giving him a call. I can bet you the Saints are giving him a call. I think the Chiefs are probably giving him a call, and they're hanging up on him because it's a division rival, and they don't want to give Davante to Patrick Mahomes. But there's going to be a lot of teams that are picking up that call from the Las Vegas Raiders, and they're going to be offering a package. So Omar Khan is going to have to outbid all of them. Now, this is what I would start with here if I were Omar Khan, a second-round pick next season and a fourth-round pick in the following draft. Now, it might cost more than this because it might be a bidding war, but it does sound like the Steelers could potentially land Davante without having to give up a first-round pick, which obviously would be extremely, extremely beneficial for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they're able to do so. By the way, if you make this a third-round pick in 2026, I'm absolutely pulling the trigger on that. Pretty much whatever the Raiders really want for Davante, I'm trying to get it done, and I'm trying to get it done quickly so you can get Davante in here as soon as possible. So let me know down there in the comments section, would you accept this trade if you were Steelers GM Omar Khan to bring Davante Adams to the Steel City? Type A if you would accept, or type D if you're going to decline. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question with accept or decline. For me personally, I'm going to accept this trade offer, and I am just sprinting that card in, right? I'm making that call, and if they say you can have Davante for a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick, I'm immediately saying yes to that, and I'm bringing Davante Adams to the Steel City because this is the type of player that can change your franchise. This is the best defense in football right now here in the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have a quarterback in Justin Fields that we know can win with this football team. You got a guy in George Pickens who would be an excellent complementary piece to Davante Adams, and if Davante comes in here as your number one receiver, and I do think he'd be your number one, you have two number ones at that point. That completely changes the landscape of the Steelers' title hopes this year. I already think that they have an outside chance of winning it. I've said that they need to add a big-name receiver, and I don't think there's a better receiver that they can land via trade from now to the trade deadline than Davante Adams. This would be maybe Omar Khan's magnum opus if he could land Davante Adams with still 3 years left on his contract. And if the Steelers are serious about going after a championship with all the pieces they have on defense right now, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick, if they're trying to win a Super Bowl now in this era, going out and making a move for Davante Adams, I don't care what it costs you to do it at this point, is worth the compensation in my opinion. But Jack, what about the contract situation? Isn't he too expensive for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Well, it's a little bit complicated. Now, there's a lot of guarantees that have already been kicked in for the Raiders that have already paid Davante Adams. So the base salary, prorated base salary right now, if the Steelers traded for him right now, they would pay $13.1 million against their cap for 2024. Now, that would be putting the Steelers right up against their current cap right now. They might have to do some maneuvering, but they can make that work. The big issue is going to be his cap hit for the next 2 seasons, which goes up to $35.64 million. Now, you guys know how the cap works, man. You can maneuver it. You can, restructure guys. You can trade people. You can extend players to lower their cap hit. They might even do that with Davante next offseason to keep him in Pittsburgh long term. And make no mistake, if the Steelers make this move, this is a move to keep Davante here in Pittsburgh likely for the rest of his career if they can manage that. So absolutely, an extension is on the table. A restructure is on the table for multiple players if you make this trade. But yes, the Steelers can afford to bring in Davante Adams if they choose to do so right now. And if the Steelers make this trade, man, I made a commitment and I'm going to stick to it. We said 11 hours for Brandon Ayuk. That didn't happen. And then kind of in jest, I said, oh yeah, if the Steelers get Davante Adams, I'll go live for 17 hours. Well, guess what? This actually looks like a real possibility right now. So I'm going to be a man of my word here. If the trade happens and Adams becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler, we're going to go live for 17 straight hours right here on Steelers Talk. Now, coming up here on the program, Tomlin took the podium today for his Week 5 press conference, gave some updates on the quarterback situation and all the various injuries on the injury report here in Pittsburgh. So I'll get into that here in just a second. But first, let's have word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. And guys, we know watching a Steelers game at Acrisure Stadium is unlike anything you guys can get from watching the game on your couch, especially when those terrible towels are flying, when it's cold outside. I mean, that environment is just super special. And if you can go see that this team play as much as you can, everything that can make that happen more often is going to be a benefit to you. So lucky for you guys, Game Time has a brand new feature called Game Time Picks, which filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All you have to do to use Game Time Picks and cut out a bunch of hours doing your own research is you go on the Game Time app, you find a game or an event you want to go see, select the Game Time Picks button, and it automatically filters through every single ticket in their database to find you the best deals on the best seats to save you countless hours while you look instead of looking for tickets on a bunch of different ticketing sites, getting frustrated, all this different stuff, comparing prices. Game Time already does that for you, and every ticket on the Game Time platform is the lowest price guarantee, so you don't have to worry about other platforms having lower prices. On Game Time, it's guaranteed. Also, you get all-in pricing so you don't get slapped with crazy fees at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to the start of the event. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports. It's one word, all caps, ChatSports. It's right down there in the bottom right of your screen for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code ChatSports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. So first, let's talk about the latest injury updates provided by head coach Mike Tomlin today at his weekly press conference. Alex Highsmith still expected to be out as he nurses that groin injury. I would say maybe next week, week 6 versus the Raiders is kind of when we could start to see Smitty get back to potentially playing. Jalen Warren and Cordero Patterson both dealing with injuries. They're both questionable. Warren with a knee, C-Pat with an ankle. Russell Wilson still listed as questionable here with a calf. Mike Tomlin did say that he's going to be ramping up a bit this week, but I guess we'll see what his status is. And then Isaac Seumalo is probable this week as he almost played last week, coming back from that pec injury. This week it certainly seems likely he'll be on the field and you're starting left guard. So Tomlin did say that Russ will increase his workload this week. He said that he's going to be working with a live pocket, which implies full participantship, especially later in the week. And he said that depending on how well he plays is going to depend on if he can play on Sunday. Didn't really say either way if he was healthy, whether it be Russell Wilson or Justin Fields starting. But what Tomlin did say is that the team is moving forward with the plan that Justin Fields will be starting versus the Dallas Cowboys. So essentially, not only does Russell Wilson need to get back to being a full participant in practice, but he has to outplay Fields in those practices in order to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers when they line up against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football Sunday night. So, he did not name Justin the full-time QB1. He made it very, very abundantly clear that he has not made an official decision as to who's going to be the full-time starter. And he even said, something along the lines here of, we are not going to be making a decision at this point as to who's going to be the starting quarterback. Russ is still injured. I'm not going to make a decision until we get Russ fully cleared. And that's such a Tomlin thing, man. Personally, I would just name Fields the QB1 if I were him. I think that this offense, especially with the way the wide receiver room is assembled, the run game playing as poorly as they are, and then the offensive line with the injuries that they're dealing with, I think you need a playmaker like Fields in there. So personally, I just named Fields QB1 right now, but it seems like Tomlin hasn't seen everything he needs to see to name him QB1. I list out all the reasons why I think Justin Fields should be named QB1 full-time here in Pittsburgh in yesterday's video, so I'll put the link to that one in the comments and description if you want to check out that video and my reasons why I think Justin Fields should be named the full-time starting quarterback. And also, guys, make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already, if you are a real one. Sunday Night Football this weekend, Davante Adams trade potentially on the horizon. There's a lot of great content coming your way here on Steelers Talk, and if you appreciate everything that we do for you here, don't forget to click that thumbs up icon. So let's talk a little bit here about the right guard position. Mike Tomlin talked about it a little bit today, and he said essentially it's going to be an open competition between Mason McCormick and Spencer Anderson, whether that means sharing reps on game days, whether that means somebody takes the job and they're the full-time starter. He said he's open to whatever happens at that position, but it is Mason McCormick and Spencer Anderson that are going to be kind of dueling it out for the right to be this team's starting right guard. Hopefully, Mason McCormick, the player that this team spent a relatively high draft pick on this year, is able to come out victorious. I certainly think that he is a part of this team's future as a starting offensive lineman. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Who's going to win this right guard competition here in 2024? Is it going to be Mason McCormick type MM, or do you think it's going to be Spencer Anderson type SA? Down there in the comments section. So also, Mike Tomlin divulged to the media today that he called the NFL offices in New York on Monday, and the NFL told him personally that they made a mistake. The officiating crew on Sunday versus the Colts made a bad decision calling the unnecessary roughness penalty on Minkah Fitzpatrick. And when I heard that, man, I was pissed off because the NFL knows that they screwed up. And if you look at everything that happened after that penalty, everything went in the Colts' favor, right? They ended up scoring on that drive again. Remember, that penalty happened on a 3rd and long. The Colts would have punted. Steelers would have had a chance to tie or win the game with a lot more time than they ended up having. But instead, they go down, they score again, and it just puts the Steelers in a tough situation. Now, the Steelers did still have a chance to win it at the end, and they kind of screwed themselves at the end of the day. But, I mean, this call definitely had implications on the end of this football game, so it pisses me off that the NFL screwed it up this much and the referees screwed it up this much. Also today, the Pittsburgh Steelers worked out wide receiver, former second-round player Andy Isabella, a former second-round pick for the Arizona Cardinals, kind of a smaller, shiftier, speedy receiver. Let me know if you've heard that one before, at Calvin Austin III, at Scotty Miller, at Quez Watkins. I mean, it seems like this team, it just wants to bring in a bunch of these smaller, shiftier type receivers when they really need a bigger presence in this wide receiver room right now. Rowan Wilson is another kind of smaller, shiftier, deep threat kind of guy. The two bigger receivers on this team right now, George Pickens and Van Jefferson. But Jefferson has been invisible through the first 4 weeks of the season. So this is another reason why I think getting a guy like Davante Adams would be absolutely phenomenal, because you get two bigger guys that can run block, and that defenses definitely have to respect down the boundary and can make big plays for Justin Fields down the field. I don't really think that Andy Isabella moves the needle much, but I guess we'll see what the team decides to do. Thank you guys for making it to the end of today's show. I know it was a little bit of a longer one today with the Davante Adams trade request, plus we had Tomlin Tuesday takeaways. I appreciate all the real ones that made it with me here to the end of today's show. We got more stuff coming your way tomorrow. We got the Steelers versus Cowboys preview for Sunday Night Football coming your way tomorrow. Plus, if Davante Adams gets traded to the Steelers, we're going to be going live for 17 straight hours. So if you don't want to miss any of the great Steelers content coming your way for free here on Steelers Talk over the next several weeks, make sure you click that subscribe button right now.